Rasheed got a question for the game. When you hear the term HIV/AIDS, what group of people comes to mind? Is it Arabs? Is it Chinese? Mexicans? Probably neither of them, right? Well, for those of us who have lived the last quarter century under the programming of Western media, the stage global representative for AIDS has been cast as the African. Whether it's some health organization, medical journal, or BBC broadcast, the subject of HIV/AIDS can barely be discussed without a dishonorable mention for the poor, socially irresponsible African who suffers from this disease the most. Maps of global statistics allege the motherland to be in a continental crisis, while legions of Red Cross crusaders and border-crossing doctors have claimed Africa as their battleground in the fight against the illness. Yet here in America, the reporting and studies are phenotypically the same. So-called African Americans are without question the national ambassadors of HIV/AIDS. Not a year goes by when black people ain't reminded by some center or association that they are the most at risk for the virus. Drug advertisers cast black and brown faces as majority all of a sudden, and even America's Disease Authority has special data profiles just for the disproportionately affected Negroes. So the messaging from the media and medical fields are clear. AIDS is an African disease. HIV is a black plague. But the casting for this viral show didn't happen overnight. And we here to hack the code on how it did. How did black people become the face of HIV in America? What's the true story? The tall tale of human immunodeficiency virus goes back 40 years or more, with an origin story of Russian and German labs, biochemical warfare research, and scapegoated chimpanzees that just so happen to be from Africa. Here in the Grand Old USA, the CDC has been a narrator of the chapters from the beginning. The Center for Disease Control first reported on the new virus in 1981, and the center even stamped the label we know as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. These folks have literally been writing the story. Now, the roots of my own analysis started nearly a decade ago when I noticed something in a stack of magazines. When I opened the Essence, the Ebony, the Vibe magazines, there were ads for HIV drugs. But when I flipped through Time, People, and Rolling Stone, there were zero ads for HIV meds. I thought this was strange. Now, even though you might be thinking this makes sense due to the HIV stats of Ebony's subscriber base, it's actually suspect. If gay men and whites are among the leading demographics of HIV carriers, why not advertise medicines and treatments in white spaces? Something in the math was amiss. With my antennas catching a signal, I started to notice the same trend on TV. When observing programs that catered to melanin audiences like BET, VH1, or Maury, I saw ads for HIV drugs constantly. But when the TV was on Access Hollywood, Big Bang Theory, or Golf, there were never ads for HIV treatment. Now, I knew I wasn't tripping. It's almost like the media was saying white people don't have an HIV problem, or the drug companies were targeting a specific clientele with their dope. And even the advertisements themselves portray suggestive imagery. All the HIV ads I saw had majority brown faces on the film. And this casting still persists today, like this Decode ad that gave this guy the lead role. So it became clear to me that black Americans had somehow become cast as the star carriers of the HIV epidemic. And the question became, how did this happen? How did Americans get so accustomed to seeing black folks put on display as the celebrity victims for this virus? It wasn't long before the numbers started to make math. So how did black people become the face of HIV in America? I think the answer is simple. It was media casting. The American media syndicate cast black people as the primary carriers of HIV. I mean, let's keep it 300 people. If we're talking about public perceptions, there's no other way black America could have been dressed with this role without the media directing. And like most events in human history, they couldn't pull this one off without a bit of black magic. So we all know the story. Back in 1991, one of the top icons of American sports announced to the world that he contracted HIV. Now, this moment is less significant than the NBA star Magic Johnson spending the next 30 years as an activist in the fight against the virus. Now, it's an undeniable fact that for the past 3 decades, Magic Johnson has been the most famous face known to be living with HIV. I mean, if there's an HIV celebrity in the game, it's without a doubt Magic Johnson. Now, where the rest of the public sees an activist in the cause for HIV prevention, I see a brand ambassador for a lucrative virus. I see a tool for a chemical engineering program targeting specific groups. Even if we took Magic Johnson at his word, The fact remains that his 30 years of HIV activism have played an essential role in making black people the face of HIV in America. So that question is answered. But the social convenience of this event, juxtaposed with the suspect HIV data on black people, got me reading this strange tale from a different angle. The first anomaly is with Magic's diagnosis. He caught the virus at a time when HIV was a death sentence, and there was supposedly less breakthroughs in treatment. Yet Magic's health never declined. He appeared to be as healthy since day one of his announcement, and the whole game noticed this, to the point that it's caused a lot of speculation and theories, like the one that says Magic Johnson was cured by drugs only the rich can afford. Another brow raiser is Cookie Johnson, his wife, whose sentiment on his diagnosis was this:
it wasn't how he got it that was important to me. It was, you're possibly going to die.
That kind of optimism from a woman who was pregnant by a new husband who caught HIV cheating with some sickly thoughts is a rarity in the extreme. And to me, that kind of optimism shows she had more to gain by staying with Magic, or she had nothing to fear. Then there's the children. Not only did Magic Johnson and his wife manage to have 2 children without HIV, one of those children just so happened to be a gay man, and gay men just so happen to be the primary carriers of HIV. Again, where others may see a son who just turned out different, I see an extension of the Magic HIV brand, an update of the social programming. First, Magic assumes the identity of HIV's representative as a viral carrier, and now his son assumes the identity of HIV's most infected representative. All of these dynamics make me start to question whether this is a natural event or a stage performance.
Even for Hollywood, it was perfect casting. The man who single-handedly produced magical moments on the basketball court was at the top of his game when it all disappeared right before our eyes.
So here's my game theory. With 5 championship rings in his fist, the Laker had conquered the game of basketball and had nothing to lose ending his NBA career. So he was chosen to run point for a military program, and a deal was made. Magic would be the national ambassador for HIV in order to associate black people exclusively with the mystery virus. A correlating program went underway in Africa. This was necessary due to the national controversy of Ryan White and his AIDS diagnosis in 1985, which made white males the poster child of the new disease. The infamous gay scenes in Hollywood, Miami, and San Francisco only magnified the stigma, so a massive PR campaign popped off. The engineers of this program intended to scapegoat black society with yet another social ill, and they needed one of the most successful black faces in America to make it effective. And voila, the magic spell was cast, the magic black man was cast for his new role. And as a reward for his 30 years of service, Magic Johnson has been provided with special access to capital interests, from HIV to heavily invested. But that's just the face of this shady business. By casting Africans and African Americans as the martyrs of HIV/AIDS in the media, no one would be surprised or alarmed if the media portrayals reflected reality. As a result, today, the average person would assume black people are simply the face of HIV because they have the most HIV. But how many people have really stopped to think critically about how that could even be possible? How did black people and Africans become the most HIV/AIDS infected groups on the planet? You see, it's one thing to try to say what a fact is, but breaking down the events, cultures, and systems that lead to the fact is a whole nother magic ball game. Tap into part 2 for the next decode on this story.